What's up, everyone? In this video, we're going to be talking to Paul Tonkinson about his book, 26.2 Miles to Happiness. Now, let me know in the comments, do you like a good book? Which running books can you recommend? Let me know in the comments. So this week we had Paul on. He took part in a Zoom call with some of the guys from the 40 Runs running club, running book club, sorry, get it right, on Zoom. So there was I don't know how many people, but it was a great session. It was really interesting because Paul obviously spoke about his book, but he obviously talked about as well, you know, dealing with mental health and running and marathons and all that sort of stuff. It's really good. Now the book I can't recommend enough. It's a great read, it's really funny, so you've got to check that out, and I'll link it below. But here's the sort of Zoom call from the group. Check it out if you want to join the book club group. Just get over to the 40 Runs running club, running community. You can join it from there, it's a subgroup from there. So yeah, over to the guys and Paul for an awesome insight into his new book.
So tell me about this group then. It's the Ford Running Club, isn't it?
This is the 40 Runs running club, and what we've got here is quite a few actually of our members. Funnily enough, it's probably the most we've ever had for a book club Zoom meeting. But we decided to form the book club during lockdown because obviously Zoom meetings are quite the thing, and this is the perfect forum to do it on. So that's kind of how it started. So we've read a few books already. And
which books have you read already?
We have
Running Up the Hill.
Running Up the Hill.
No,
that's the fastest one, wasn't it?
Is that Lisa with the flamingo hat? Yeah.
Lisa Jackson. Yeah, she's great. She's lovely.
Oh, I love her. I love the book. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's a really nice book. Yeah, and so is Vassos's. They're really nice sort of intro into running books and enthusiastic and inspiring. Yeah, and Lisa's great. She's writes about so many different things, and she's a very friendly person. Yeah, I've run with her a couple of times. She's lovely.
Have you? Where have you run with her?
Well, she was on the podcast, and I do this podcast, running commentaries. So we get guests on the podcast. So we ran with her. She also she knew my wife because she used to work at a parental website called Mumsnet, and my wife works there, and so we met. So we knew ourselves socially anyway. And she's great. She's always tapping me up for quotes for her books. she's good at the publicity, and she's just a lovely woman. So yeah, it's good for her. She's got a travel book out at the moment, so I was pushing that for her. So yeah, and she was very good pushing my book as well. She's a very enthusiastic person.
Cool, excellent. So, and we have to ask you, because I've been listening to the running commentary. I've only just started listening to it, but I know from that you've got a bit of a calf injury going on at the moment. So how's that? Have you been hating not running?
It's a bit, it's annoying because I keep resting I didn't have it at all till this year. Then it started in January, and it just keeps flaring back up. So I'm rest at the moment. I'm on a kind of rest for 5 days and then have a little trot out. I can still feel it a bit. My tendency is to just rush back. I'm trying to leave it time to recover, but we've got a podcast once a week that relies on me running. So I just recover, then I go for a run. I'm not back to square one, but I can feel it. So I'm hoping it's not going to be too serious. I'm hoping it's just an injury that I've got because I've got this Morton's toe thing where my second toe along is longer than my first toe, then my big toe, and then the second, and that affects you over time in terms of getting a little injury. So I need some orthotics, but I'm too lazy to get it sorted out. I'm really bad at stuff like that. I'll just run till I'm injured and then not really ask anyone and then just get running again. I'm not very good at just basic maintenance.
That's why it surprised me actually in the book when you say about the Morton's toe, that you actually did go and get it seen before you ran the marathon. Most of us would be, oh my God, I don't want to go. This is me. I don't want to go to the physio in case he tells me that I can't do the marathon.
Yeah,
I know it was because it was so painful. It was stopping me running, and it was about a month before the marathon. So I just needed to get it resolved as quickly as possible. And I wasn't going to let him stop me running anyway. Really, he kind of accepted that. No matter what he said, I was going to run. but he gave me some advice and some little tips. And then it was just a sort of minor thing. And he gave me these little toe separators. So I put these little little rubber toe separators between my toes, and that worked. But it's no longer working. Long term, as I get a little bit older, I was 51 this year, which is fine. But it's sort of confirmation that you're 50, isn't it? That you're not going to get back into your 40s.
Speak for yourself, mate. I've just turned 51 and I'm happy.
That's that rugby stuff. You're a strong man, aren't you? Strong man. I'm more vulnerable. So
it's funny you mentioned your toe. I'd like to know how many actual people actually bent down and checked to see if their second toe was longer than their first toe, because I did.
I noticed. Well, I didn't want to say. I noticed a lot of stuff going on out of camera. I didn't want to ask too many questions. But no, it's if you do it, it can. It's meant to be a sign of enlightenment. I mean, I'll leave that for you to make the conclusion. But it's one to look out for. You tend to get injured over time with it as you increase the mileage. So hopefully no one's got it.
I hope so. So let's talk about the book a bit. And first of all, what made you write it? I mean, I know that you said you wanted to kind of, I suppose, document the fact that you were going for this sub 3-hour marathon, but what kind of spurred you to start writing it, and was it difficult to write?
I'll be honest, I really enjoyed writing the book. It was like I wanted to write about running because I've been thinking and talking. I've been doing a column for Runner's World for like 10 years or whatever every month, so I've thought a lot about running in my life, and so I wanted to write a book, and at the same time, I wanted to beat 3 hours for the marathon, and I wanted to write a book about it. But I knew that if I didn't beat 3 hours for the marathon, I probably wouldn't be able to sell the book. so who wants to read about a bloke who gave it everything to beat 3 hours and then didn't beat 3 hours? So the two became sort of joined in my mind. I was training really hard. And I thought, if I can beat 3 hours, then I'll write a book about it. So I sort of got strength from what the desire to write a book gave me sort of the strength to beat 3 hours for the marathon. Do you know what I mean? They became sort of intertwined in my mind. And when I got the chance to write the book, I'll be honest, I think with my publishers, a lot of the way I pitched it for them, they thought it was going to be like really celebrity, you know, because I know a few celebs, and obviously I've done stand-up comedy, so I know Michael McIntyre very well. And the way I pitched it, I think they were thinking they were going to get some kind of celeb gossipy, and there's elements of that in it. There's an awful lot about running as well. So I sort of told them I was going to do one thing and then wrote another. So it was a little bit cheeky. So it's a nice blend. And when I started writing the book, I spent a lot of time planning it. Planning what I wanted to do with it, and then I just mapped out how long I wanted to write each day, and it felt good. It's nice to have a story to tell and to tell it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't happen very often, so it felt really simple to me, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good fun.
I mean, you've opened up quite a lot as well. There's quite a lot of personal stuff in there.
Yeah,
about your childhood. Was it always your intention to talk about that in the book as well?
It wasn't originally, but it was sort of like I wanted to be honest about the process of running marathons and what it involves. I mean, for everyone, really. It doesn't really. I made sure to mention that in my book. The desire to beat 3 hours for the marathon, and the desire to beat 5 hours, just the desire to run a marathon. It kind of, in my experience, when I've run marathons, it brings things up emotionally in my life. Whenever I've run any marathon, and it's so. And it just came to pass that beating 3 hours for the marathon involved me sort of surrendering to this relationship with the pain that I'd have to go through to do that sort of thing, not to get too heavy about it. And I had to find motivation to get through it. And I had to find a way of, I was fascinated by the wall and what the wall is when you're running a marathon and what you go through, and emotionally and physically in every way. And when I'd previously ran marathons, I'd always kind of been defeated by the wall in a way, you know, just really sort of broken up by it. And that's quite pleasurable. It's quite nice to get broken up by something. It's because you're growing, aren't you? Sort of emotionally, you're always growing. I always think you grow with every marathon. But with this one, I wanted to, because I was trying to beat 3 hours, and I thought I had the potential to do so. I had to really battle with it, and I had to go get a bit rugby with it, get a bit snarly with it. And that brought up some stuff from my childhood. and sort of anger things, maybe things I hadn't quite resolved. And I'm getting a bit deep with this, but I'd had bits of therapy to resolve them and stuff. And that had worked to a certain extent. But I think the process of running, one of the reasons why it's so healthy is because you're actually doing something. It's nice to physically do something, and something happens when you're running that's sort of beyond words in a way. And so it was sort of, I didn't intentionally set out to write about my childhood, but it happened naturally as I honestly recounted the journey of trying to beat 3 hours for the marathon. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of, it ended up surprising me a bit, the book, but I wanted to be honest about it. And one of the reasons why I wanted to be honest about it was that people who'd been through similar experiences could relate to it. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of that, really. I just wanted this. Was people, everyone goes through loads of different experiences in life, and my experience was that. But everyone's got their own pain going on in life, and it was just to connect, really, just to try and connect a little bit deeper. And I'm glad I did. It caused a few problems with my family, but I'm glad I did because it connected. Pardon?
I was going to ask you about your family. Like, once you'd written the book, who read it first from your family, and who was the first person to realise that you'd been through that as a child?
Well, I mean, I showed it. Initially, I was a little bit. I didn't realise what potential repercussions. So I showed versions of it to like my dad, and to be honest, I made slight changes on his request because I realised everyone else was going to read. Because when you can get lost in your book and you think no one's going to read it, what repercussions? So I kind of I just sort of bigged him up a bit more than maybe I did initially. You've got to be sensitive, haven't you? It's something for a first-time writer, you realise that it affects people. Everything you write affects everyone else, and so that took me a while to really realise. But I'm glad I did. I showed it to my wife. And she said, you might want to have a word with your dad. And I thought, all right, maybe I should have a word. But it's not like my dad found anything out. He knew. Do you know what I mean? He knew it all. But it's just to work out. We haven't maybe talked about it in that much depth or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or to realise your kids goes through this kind of stuff. But he's totally fine. He's absolutely fine with it. Had a funny one the other night, actually, literally 2 nights ago. I had a guy reach out to me on Twitter and said that his mate was like late 40s and had a divorce and he was really depressed and feeling suicidal, actually. And he'd told his mate that he reckoned reading my book had saved his life. Now that's probably not true. And let's hope there's more in his life than my book. But if it gave him a bit of an impulse or connected, do you know what I mean? It's like you don't really need reviews, do you? If you get that, do you know what I mean? It was like. It felt really powerful, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's a good lesson for anyone, even if they're not a runner. I think to read it.
In what way, if you don't mind me asking?
To learn how to forgive and how to not let things that affect you in your childhood carry through to your adult life. The way you dealt with that, and how forgiving you afterwards as well, and let it go and moved on.
Yeah. It's that kind of thing of it's that sort of resentment it's a poison that only hurts you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You have to move on because it literally serves no purpose. And it's that kind of if people hurt you in life like that, they have to be hurt themselves. Do you know what I mean? Healthy people don't like hurting other people. I always say that to my kids: hurt people. So. There was no, and I realised before I had kids that if I didn't want to pass the rubbish on to them, I had to sort it out myself. So I was very conscious of that. And I'm lucky enough to have had kids, and they give you they help you heal yourself, don't you, through the process of having kids. So it's all I'm very, very into my family, and it's I feel very grateful to have gone through that. So it was good to get out there, to get that out there within a book as also. Practical advice about running, little funny stories, little tips to help people. But also, I always think when people run marathons, it's a bit of a private drama played out in public, isn't it? Everyone's going through something very internal, and they've got all these people cheering for them, and it's such an emotional event for everyone, including the people cheering for them, including the people who don't know them. Because you see people struggling, and and it's very, everyone becomes, it's a mass catharsis, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why I love running them so much. I just because it always changes me slightly as a person and sort of opens me out to life a little bit more, because you get a bit defensive or whatever, or you get certain tactics to go through life. But after every marathon, I feel a little bit more grounded, just a little bit more open to people. And I've heard when you run ultras, it gets better. I don't know whether my body's going to hold up. I don't know whether my body's going to hold up, but I've heard people run ultras. I've chatted to ultra runners. They talk about this bubble, that they're in this bubble of like loving people and all that. And I'd love that, but I just don't know whether this blooming Morton's toe is going to hold up.
No. So how many marathons have you actually run?
I've run about 7 so far. Yeah, and 6 of them have been in London. And one's been in York. I haven't been very imaginative.
Why York?
Well, because they asked me, because I'm from Yorkshire, so there's a bit of that sort of going home sort of aspect to it. And it just sort of fitted my training, because that was part of the trying to beat sub-3, really. That was in October before the April. It was like the preceding year. So I found myself getting faster. And a big part of it was because they asked me. And they'll sort of treat you really well, and it's a nice marathon, York, because it's big, but it's not massive. It's London. It's got a very friendly atmosphere, and I'd heard the course was good. Although it's got a hill in the last 200 meters, it's got a really steep hill.
Yeah.
And has anyone run York?
Yeah, me and Nettie ran it together.
All right. Okay. Yeah. It's funny, that last hill, isn't it? It's like, wow, couldn't get any hard.
Not funny.
No, but I remember this Yorkshire bloke going, "All right, you need to finish. It's just up there," and it's just like, "Oh my God, really?" But a friendly marathon, I think, Yorkshire.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was really, really lovely. I've done it 3 times now.
Have you really? Okay, cool. Yeah. And it's got some nice long downhill sections as well, hasn't it? Which is quite nice. Do you know what I mean? It's got the
nice villages as well. You go to all the little villages, and there's loads of support. It's nice that, yeah. Absolutely,
yeah. Little pockets of support, but you get your quiet moments as well, and then a massive pocket of support. And it's a great marathon. I suppose one reason why I've run London a lot is because I'm lucky enough that I can get into it. You know, because I write for Runners World and stuff, so they get me in, and that's really, I feel very, very fortunate, because I know a lot of people can't, and the atmosphere just makes it really helps, doesn't it? The wall of sound. But I'd like to run different. I would like to run quieter marathons just for a different experience. So yeah, seventh so far. Do we have veterans of many marathons here? Do we have?
I'm not sure, actually. Do we have anyone that's done more than 7?
Done 10.
Good for you.
10 marathons.
Where have you run yours? Which ones?
So 3 London, 2 Manchester, 2 Brighton, 1 Dublin,
okay.
A Lee Valley one. I've also done Race to the Stones twice as well.
All right, you've done some ultras.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do an ultra, I'd like to do Race to the Stones. I've heard it's really
great.
Is it good fun?
Amazing.
Is it? And is it true that you feel better the longer you run then? Is it that kind of, do you get a kind of relaxed chill feeling after you?
Yeah, it's definitely more relaxed. It's not, the time pressure's not there. So you eat, you drink, you chat, meet amazing people.
Good. That's what attracts me to it, the sort of taking the time pressure of it and just having a sort of adventure, you know, a destination to reach.
Yeah, great.
Just take your time on the way. No, that sounds
Recommend
good.
it.
Which is your favourite marathon? Which one?
Oh,
London.
Probably London.
Of course.
Probably. My most enjoyable one to run was Dublin, because training was awful. So I just kind of
you just
had a bit of a laugh with it. But London's amazing.
Yeah. It's just a crowd, isn't it? It's just one you get on the embankment, and it's like you can feel you're just running towards the marathon. There's something about, there's a magic about it. You go.
And like you were saying in your book, that relationship between you and the support on the sides. It's special.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and talking of supporters, we can't let this go without mentioning the jelly baby moment, can we?
No, that was a sad moment.
It's so good.
It's a sad moment in a bad marathon. It's that kind of when you're tired and moody, then everyone just makes you moody, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I was just moody. Bless her. I was sort of, yeah. Well, I talk about it. It was after a guy had ran past me with a rucksack. Who was like a sort of Cockney geezer. It looked like he was talking about I was gasping for a fag when he was running when he ran past me. So that was quite sobering. And then yeah, I just grabbed at a jelly baby. Didn't get it, dropped to the floor, and I screamed a very rude word at a very small child. It was awful. But you know, when you're just too tired to lean down and get the sweet that you've dropped, and just the distance, the sweet there teasing me, and the distance, I just couldn't hold back. Bless her. But I hope she's forgiven.
No, you never heard from the father then? He like
no, he hasn't reached out, but he might do. Hopefully he'll get a read of the book.
I need to have a chat with you after.
Yeah, track me down. Yeah, chase me. But no, it's funny that, isn't it? Because sometimes you can get a bit angry during marathons. It's kind of if your head's not right and physically you're starting to struggle, or you can go through phases, can't you, of a little bit of people can get a bit antsy around water stations, or it's normally a sign that you haven't trained hard enough or you're sort of not focused on it. Do you know what I mean? There's something goes on. But yeah, I was a little bit annoyed with myself then, because I think it was a marathon where I wasn't that fit. And instead of, like we're just chatting about, if you're not that fit, you just relax and decide to enjoy it and just run it for the experience. I still wanted to try and run a fast time. It was just craziness, absolute craziness. I'd set off way too fast. Just all the errors you could make, I made them in that marathon. Because you always find out something in a marathon, and it always tells you can't hide there, can you? You can't fake it. If you're fit, it's going to find out, and if you're not fit, it will find out. So I felt a little bit exposed and just a bit stupid, really. Yeah.
Do you think it's better to run a marathon on your own or with somebody else?
That's an interesting question. I've never. I was going to say I've never run it with someone else, but the last marathon I ran was last year when I ran with the guy who I do the podcast with. We recorded a podcast of the marathon, and we ran it fairly slowly for us. We ran it together, and it was probably the most enjoyable marathon that I'd ever done. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's a shame all this has happened, of course, pandemic stuff. It's a shame for many, many reasons, for many, many people. There's been tragedy and stuff, but I realised I'd made a bit of a move in my running, that I really enjoyed running and encouraging everyone. I'd always wondered what I'd be like if I was ran marathon slow, and I realised I was one of those sort of happy clappy kind of absolute pain in the arse types. I was really reaching out to people, and I was surprised. It was the most enjoyable marathon I'd ever ran. I just really enjoyed sharing it with people, encouraging people, not feeling the time pressure. Because I've kind of realised I'm not going to get faster. I've kind of done it all, but my desire to get faster as a marathon kind of has been documented in that book. And so now I just want to enjoy running experiences. So it was. So that was something that I enjoyed. But I would say if you try to beat a time, I think you've got to be a little bit careful, because anything that detracts from your focus is a bit weird. And if you run with someone else, you just a little bit of you is thinking about them, and it's very hard to find someone who you run with and you're at a really natural, relaxed pace, and you might be just adjusting your pace just a little bit, or just a little, and just over time that will start to tire you out. You really need to, if you really try to run a fast marathon, or as fast as you can, you really need to marshal your physical and mental energies. So you can't be kind of thinking, are we talking too much? Am I this? Am I that? You can't get lost in a relationship with someone else. For me, it's quite a private thing. But if you just want to enjoy a marathon, then I would say my most enjoyable one was with a friend. Yeah. And
what are the best and worst things that you've encountered during a marathon?
My best thing was the sub 3, really, and just the slow just the realization that I was going to do it after about 24 and a half miles, when I felt that I'd burst through this wall. And I still felt I had a bit of strength in my legs. I started to catch people up, and then when I overtook the sub-3, the pacer, it felt like a really big moment. I felt really strong and excited and happy, and like I'd kind of. It's quite rare. I'm not that good at setting goals and achieving them. I'm okay. I'm all right at it. But in terms of like really setting a goal and chunking it down and achieving it and giving everything to it, it was a really nice, powerful message for me. It was just a really nice experience. So when I turned the corner and saw it was on 2:59, and I sprinted and realised I was going to do it, it was great. It was lovely. So that was the best. The worst was probably the marathon we talked. Probably the marathon, the insulting toddlers marathon, because I just felt, as I said, I just felt stupid. I'd let myself down. I just felt a little bit silly and tired and hot and bothered and bleeding nipples and it left me. I didn't get a great feeling after it. I just felt a little bit daft. But nothing really bad has ever happened to me in a marathon. It's all, do you know what I mean? It's all been gradations of good, really. But it's just, there's been nothing. When you say worst thing that's happened in a marathon, it's like unless I got really injured, I find it hard to. I see them all as useful experiences, I reckon.
What have you seen from other people? Have you seen like some pretty disgusting sights or anything?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, you get that thing where you run, where you get past the 18-mile mark, and people are like falling over or being sick, or do you know sort of like, just suddenly start. That can be quite disturbing. The post 18, 19-mile mark where people start cramping and shaking and freaking out. But it's by then it's funny that, because you all start off together when you're in the marathon, and then the longer it goes, the more private it becomes. And then towards the end.
Sorry, Karen, can I put you on mute, darling, please, if you're going to.
Yeah, sorry, my daughter's just coming in from netball.
All right, it's fair enough. Life goes on. It's like, how did you win at netball?
No, it was just training. It was the last training session. So no, yeah, she's just moaning that it's not really locked down. She's not happy that she's not going to take friends.
So who is happy?
15, I know. Yeah, she's just having a moan.
Oh God. You start off all together, and then you kind of, after about 15, 16 miles, everyone splits up into their own separate journeys, and then you come together at the end. I mean, I love that section where you're running through the wall and everything feels super dramatic. You've got people like proposing to their wife, or stopping and seeing their kids and holding their babies, and it's a very intense emotional experience. And some people just lose it and they get cramp, or they fall over, or medics. It's like that. It's part of the experience, isn't it? It's like running through this catharsis, and then at the end you're just chilling out. And I love the end of marathons where everyone's just talking to each other. I love the finish and the sort of the hour or so after marathon where everyone's getting the kit and just chatting to each other. It reminds me when I used to go raving quite a bit when I was a kid in Manchester, and just that sort of zone of everyone being super friendly. But of course, this is way more healthier. It's been nothing but good, really, for me.
Did you cry once you realised you'd hit sub-3? Because I know the days after, I just cried with the realisation that I'd done it, and I didn't get as good a time at all.
No. But I felt I cried when I felt a little bit teary, but I'm northern, so it takes quite a lot for me. I felt a little bit teary when I saw my son. I saw my son and my wife, because that was part of something I'd imagined. I'd sort of been visualising about things that I wanted from it. Do you know what I mean? And he was part of the motivation, so I could run this time, so he'd be proud of me and see the connection between determination and achievement, etc. Do you know what I mean? So I cried a little bit then. It's a very emotional experience. When I finished, I just sort of babbled for about for about an hour to anyone who's close to me. But as much about them as about me, I just like talking to people after that. But you found yourself crying, did you? What, just occasionally, just around the house, or what? Or just sort of...
I've run mine abroad, and it was, I totally get that feeling friendly, because the whole city just talks to anyone they think might have run the marathon, and just in a way that you've never talked to strangers before. And when I was flying home, they made me cry in the airport, because I don't know whether it's just utter emotional fatigue or, but yeah, they were just like, oh my God,
where were you?
Marathon.
Which marathon did you do?
I've done New York and Chicago.
All right, okay. I'd love to do both of those marathons, actually. I'd love to. I
definitely recommend them. But yeah, I was in the airport, and they were like, "Oh my God, you ran the marathon and you're English," and it was just like, I just cried like a lunatic. Very embarrassing.
That's great. No, it's great. It's lovely. It's sort of, it's what I write about in my book. But you know what we're talking about. It's real. It's an emotional experience to run a marathon, and that's why I always say to people, everyone should run at least just one marathon. You know, I just like everyone says, oh, everyone's got a book in them, or everyone should do this, or you've got to go to wherever to see the sights of the world or whatever. I think a marathon is, I think it's achievable for a lot of people, for most people, but it's really hard as well. It's on a nice cusp. It's not impossible, but to run a marathon is a massive, massive achievement. But you know, Jade Goody did it. God bless her. Do you know what I mean? People can do it, and you can, and it's accessible to everyone, and you can get an awful lot out of it. So it doesn't surprise me that you cried. It's great. Did you get a downer afterwards though? Because some people get a downer maybe a week afterwards, don't they? They get a bit.
Yeah. Once I got home and like that was it. You stop suddenly.
Yeah.
That was
once you got home and realised. Once you realise they're not friendlies in New York, I was very excited.
Bored everyone to death talking about it here. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a real achievement. It was fantastic. How many marathons have you run? New York,
2.
Chicago? 2. Brilliant. Which is better, New York or Chicago?
I love them both.
Right.
That's
they're both great marathons.
Yeah, that's my bucket list, is to have the majors, and I just can't seem to get into London or Berlin. So.
It is a shame. It's so tough for people to get into London, isn't it? It's such a shame, isn't it? Yeah.
I was curious. You kind of answered it about how you got in, because it was an interest how you got your spots.
I know it's absolute corruption, isn't it? it's just like I write for a magazine, so they get me in. I'm aware how lucky I am, and most of the times they stick me. I start in the 10th, which was even more lucky, because then you just get looked after really well. One year I didn't, and I really enjoyed that as well. But yeah, there's a magic about London, and I feel very fortunate. Yeah, what can I say? I'm lucky.
I read one year that Katie Price got into the London Marathon, and she did no training, and she made it as far as mile 9, and people were just absolutely furious.
As they should be. It's a waste. It's an absolute waste. And then you had one girl who popped over from a reality TV show and popped over at the 14-mile mark, didn't she? And hopped over that bit where you can hop over and join in. You can't disrespect the event. You can't disrespect how much it means to people.
Yeah,
and the charitable giving and all that kind of. It's such people are running for such a variety of reasons. It's such a powerful day, you know. But you can't be falling. You can't be stopping at the 9-mile mark.
Okay, well, we've got some questions from people who a few people wanted me to ask on their behalf, but if they've changed their mind now, let me know. But Paula McIntosh, do you want to ask a question, or do you want me to do it for you?
I'll ask, that's fine, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Right, great. Hiya. So I loved reading about Scarborough as well, because I'm from Hull. All the places that you mentioned.
Yeah. It was really nice. Sorry,
what did you say? I was just because I knew where they all were, I could picture them all. Yeah.
It was really nice to write about Scarborough. I really kind of it made me realise how much I miss it. You know, I mean, we left Scarborough when I was about 15 or 16, and it's such a beautiful town, and I did so much running around there, and it's such a big part of my running life and starting to run, and obviously my childhood and stuff. But they do a 10K race in October in Scarborough, the Great Yorkshire 10K, and it's a fantastic run. And it goes right around the Marine Drive and then back again. So it's sort of like the first run I ever did. I talk about it in my book. The first run I did is actually like a race now in Scarborough, and it sells out in about 3 hours or something. They release it in like June, and by midday it's sold out the first day because everyone wants to run it. But if you can get into it, it's a great Yorkshire 10K, and it's a brilliant race. Yeah.
Is that the McCain one? Did McCain sponsor that?
Yeah, I think it's a McCain one. Yeah. And they give you the worst T-shirt in the history of post-race T-shirts. It's like a bright yellow McCain. It's so cheap. It almost sets alight the minute you put it on. It's so flammable. You know? But quite good fun, and the atmosphere is great as well. And running around the Marine Drive, it's beautiful. So yeah, it was good to write about that. Yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll have to look out for that one.
Yeah, do enter it.
So, and I was going to say, you mentioned as well about running on holiday, and I know you went to Cuba just before the marathon and trained there. Is there anywhere in the world that you'd want to run that you fancy visiting to go and run?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to. I mean, everywhere I go on holiday, I run, and I'd love to do some sort of American some of those ultras I do in America. I love running through the woods. I'm happiest in my running life when I'm just running through woods, and they seem to have the biggest woods in the world in America. I'm not very good at geography, but they seem to have that. The only problem is some of them seem to have mountain lions in them, so I'm a little bit trepidatious. But I'd love to do that. But in terms of locations, I don't have any specific locations. That's a great part of being on holiday, isn't it? When you're a runner, is that you get to explore. Like we went to Croatia one year, and you find places that normal people won't find because you're fit enough to do it. It's just such a great feeling, isn't it? Just run for an hour and you just find all these little places. So wherever I am, I'm going to run. But yeah, the States, I went on holiday in the States. I did some nice runs around San Francisco, LA, running by Santa Monica down the beach there. It was just beautiful. But that's just been really lucky, isn't it? And running gives you that freedom that other people don't have, doesn't it? So it's great. Yeah. Have you run in any wonderful places that you'd like to recommend?
No, not really, because I've only really been running a couple of years, and so really, I think last year I was running around Pocklington when we were on holiday.
Yeah. Well, there's some great places in the UK. I mean, in Wales, on the moors. When I go home to see my dad lives in Thirsk, so I run up Melrose Motherley around the North Yorkshire moors. It's absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic just to be on your own up in the moors like that, and the weather is really raining, and you're on top of this massive hill. It's just great. So there's so many places like Race to the Stones or in the UK. There's so many places. There's so much great countryside, isn't there? So there's so much to explore. So yeah, it's 2 years. How's it going? You enjoying it?
Yeah. I feel a bit of an imposter here though, because I haven't done a marathon.
Not an imposter. Oh, it's all good. It's all there. I mean, there's no marathons to run at the moment anyway, so I won't be too bad. Although, did anyone run the virtual London a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
How was that?
I wasn't sure whether we were supposed to wear them tonight, Kim. They finally came.
Yay,
for bloody weeks.
Well done. Did you just knit that?
No, but I probably could.
No, you did really well. That I was. It looked quite hard work to run it. Was it weird running a marathon on your own and setting off at the time that you wanted to and all that kind of? Because there's no event, is it? Do you know what I mean? When you run a marathon, it's quite nice because it's all about you running this event. But when you're just running it, I think I'd have struggled with that. What did you do for like drink and stuff like that?
I have my son bring cups of tea.
I did a little Southend-on-Sea route for a few of us FORDY runners, and we kind of met up socially distanced, of course. And yeah, so we ran around.
All good, don't worry about that.
Because you ran off and left us.
Did she?
Yeah, she did. She ran off and left us, Paul. Shocking it was. We didn't know where to go.
You need to get Fletch.
Is that when you were still trying to get your act to tick over, Kim?
That's what clubs are all about, aren't they? Setting off and then leaving everyone.
Well, there were four of us that were going to run it, and four that were going to walk it, and Fletch was in the walking bit. It was nice. That's why I'm saying I did Brighton Marathon by myself, and I absolutely hated it. But I ran with a running friend. I know it was a virtual, but I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Shall I play the video that shows that you really hate it, Kim?
Love to see the video.
I thought when you did Brighton, Kim, you were very smiley when you came past the oranges. Just wanted to get oranges.
Yeah. I think it was because there was a camera in my face. I think you have to smile, don't you? You're forced to smile. It's like you say that the crowds do kind of keep you going, don't they? And you kind of tend to show off a little bit, don't you? Even if you haven't got it in you, you kind of find that something in your legs to make you go a little bit faster when you go past someone.
They do. They help. You do find yourself putting on a bit of a show when there's people watching, don't you? There's a bit of a like.
Pretend you're enjoying yourself.
Yes. Of course. Yeah.
Right, we've got another question from Lucy. Lucy, do you want to ask Paul your question?
Yeah, nice shallow one for you, Paul. On your 2-bottle Sunday, what wine do you recommend?
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I'm not very good on wines. I mean, I'm good at buying. I'm good at drinking wine, but I'm not. I tend to buy French wines. I tend to go for like French stuff. But to be honest, as I get older, I tend to go more on the percentages. So I look at the percentages on the wine, and I like to start off with a big heavy hitter. So I'll start off with like a 14%, and that'll get me. And I'll think with the idea being maybe I'll get so drunk with that I won't want any more. But of course, I get so drunk that I want some more. But if the second one, and it's always a mistake, by the way, when I drink 2 bottles. I'm not advocating it. And the hangovers now are getting awful. But so because of that, I make the second one a 12.5%. That's what I do. So it's bad. It's still bad. It's still bad, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Yeah. The problem is with the 2-bottle Sundays, it's the rubbish that you eat while you're drinking. That's the main problem. I'll have loads of like on toast and just absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. So so the 2-bottle Sunday, they're not as bad now because I haven't been doing any gigs. It's normally when I've had a big gig weekend and Sunday's my chill out day, and so it can get a bit messy.
They're the best ones though.
Yeah, they are the best ones. They're good fun. They're really good fun. But my goodness, I feel them now. How about you? What kind of wine do you? Are you a wine drinker? And then do you get on your piano? Is that what happens?
Right, no. I'm on Jam Shed. That's quite nice.
Oh, that's quite good.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Lucy, do you normally put your wine in your water bottles and drink it on the train on the way back?
On the first lockdown, I met my friend in a park, and because you're not allowed, it was brand new lockdown, so you weren't allowed to sit in the park. So we put our running gear on and put our wine in our drinks bottles and met up in the park. And when the police moved us on, they said, "It's all right. We just bumped into each other. Look, we've got our running bottles."
That's where you got that idea about the running bottle from, Lucy.
It might have been from you, Mel, when I was on the train.
It might have been from the big half, was it? Was it after the big half?
It was Mel's fault. It was.
I have to say, we have got a few drinkers in this club, haven't we?
I'm not a drinker. Not much.
Mel.
Paul, how hard was it, Paul?
That's such an inspiring story. How what?
How hard was it for you giving up the booze to do the sub-3 marathon?
Well, To be honest, I didn't give it up for long. I gave it up for about 2 months. I gave it up for about 2 months, which is the longest I've gone without drinking in living memory. But it was one of those things that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed it because it was so different. Do you know what I mean? I really enjoyed it because it's. But I made up for it when I'd done it. But at the time, it was just like it was part of the momentum. I achieved this momentum where I really wanted to achieve this goal. So the drinking just didn't make any sense then. So it just because I felt so bad afterwards. And the thing about it is that I don't drink that much. But when I drink too much. I'm one of those. Do you know what I mean? So I won't drink for like 4 or 5 days. But then when I do, it'll be 2 bottles. I'm like that. I'm not very good. I can't have a couple of glasses and then that's it. I'm rubbish at that. I'm all in for it because I love it so much. I love red wine. I absolutely love it, and it feels really epic and dramatic. I make loads of plans and it's all great. So I enjoyed the contrast and I enjoyed starting up again.
Right, we've got another question from Steph. Does Steph want to ask Paul a question now? Is she?
Yeah. Hi, Paul. Hi, everyone. Just to say, we've got a really good marathon up here in Inverness with a monster. So if you ever need another PB, we could get Nessie to chase you around.
Oh, that'd be great. That sounds great. Yeah. The Inverness Monster Marathon.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
It's the Loch Ness Marathon. It's quite hilly, but it's good fun. My question is really, I found your book really relatable. I was a bit worried when it was about 3 hours because that's certainly not me. And I just was like, oh, but your 3 hours is my 5 hours, my target that I'm trying to get to. This is hopefully marathon 4 next year. Yeah. So it was really the end when you said that you just felt this sort of peacefulness when you finally did get sub 3. And I was just wondering, is that still how you feel, or are you looking for the next challenge now? And does that kind of stay with you, sort of a thing?
No, it kind of. Yeah, I think it did. I mean, it sounds a bit simple, but I actually think it did. And I'm pleased that you say that that my 3 hours is your 5 hours, because I wanted to make that clear. We're all operating at different. I know guys have run like 2:20 marathons, and I know people who run 5:20, and it's all the same. They're going through variations of the same thing. It's got the meaning that you give it, and I made 3 hours. I created a big sort of structure of meaning around it, and when I completed it, I did feel that I had achieved something, and the feeling has persisted. I no longer feel irritated by the idea of running a fast marathon, and sort of that issue that I talk about my mum and all the sort of emotional stuff I stuck around it. I feel that out with it. It did feel like I closed a chapter in a way, which is really nice. It doesn't sort of make that much sense, I suppose, because I know you're meant to go to therapy for a long time and stuff, but I've done all that, as I said, and there's something about the experience of it and going through it. Yeah, I'm not that bothered about running faster anymore. I just want different experiences now, running longer, chatting to people, adventure, travel, and just community stuff. So sorry, that was a little bit long-winded, but it did, yeah, it felt meaningful, and the feeling remains. So good luck with your 5 hours. That'd be great.
Thank you. I think that's really cool, because there's a whole temptation with where you hit one PB and you just keep on chasing them. So I think that's really cool that you've got something out of it, and you're now, you're able to reflect on it and share it with others.
Yeah, but you've also got to realise as well that I am 51. I'm not going to I've just realised I'm not going to get faster. I mean, I did my PB when I was about 47, which is quite late. But you can do PBs at various different times of your life. But I kind of realised that I just physically to get faster than that now would rely on a level of training that my body just physically can't do. So there's certain. You've got to be, it's a negotiation with reality as well, isn't it? You've got to realise what's possible. And I still want to run longer and, further and have different experiences. But in terms of faster, yeah, it was great. It was great.
Thank you.
Gemma.
No worries. Good luck.
Is Gemma?
Hello. Yeah, I'll ask my question. I think he's answered it anyway. First of all, Paul, can I just say I'm a massive fan of your podcast. I've been listening to it from episode 1. I think it's amazing. Really keeps me company on my long runs.
Good, well, good for you.
Yeah, I get funny looks sometimes and I'm wetting myself laughing.
Good. Well, sometimes we get a bit serious, but we try and lighten it up as well. It's good. I'm glad you enjoy it. I really like doing it because it's really low pressure. I literally don't think about it. I just meet Rob. He does all the production, sends it to the guy in Portugal, Steve, and he sorts it out. I really like Rob, and I really like, because it's part of just getting people into running. Do you know what I mean? It's just a nice thing to offer out there. There's no wedge in it. There's nothing like that. There's no fame in it. It's just a nice community thing. So yeah, I really enjoy it, and we've done one a week now for a long time, and we will continue to do so for a long time.
Excellent. So my question, I think you've answered, is basically what is next? Like you said, you don't think you're going to go faster, so you're thinking more going longer. Ultras.
But the next, what's next is me sorting this toe and calf thing out, but I have to do that. I'm going to have to go to someone and spend money, and I'm Yorkshire, I'm really tight. I hate that idea. I hate the idea of giving someone money for this thing but I realise I'm going to have to pay money for some serious orthotics and sort it out once and for all, because it will keep coming back. So that's my main thing. That's my initial thing. And I'm recording. I'm doing an edition of Pointless tomorrow, so I'm going to use the money from Pointless to buy some orthotics. That's my plan. And then once that's sorted out, long runs, race to the stones, maybe the odd little adventure abroad, who knows? But just getting into that sort of experience. Yeah, I really look forward to doing that when they all open up again. God willing.
Yeah, hopefully.
Right, and Carolyn has a really interesting question, I think.
Oh.
I wanted to check about the third-rate pants, and have they now officially been cleared out?
Most of them have. It's hard to throw pants out, isn't it? But the crotchless monstrosities are essentially gone, because they serve no purpose. They're helping no one. They only irritate, and they're not healthy. But no, you're right. That's bless her. She's still talking to me. She lives 2 doors down, Tanya, from the massage debacle. I've sorted out. The pants are getting better. That's all I say. But I'm still really bad at throwing them. The problem is in winter as well, especially during lockdown. Standard slip. I end up wearing the same pair for ages. I don't know how you're looking. But I just. Is that an overshare? Would that go down as an overshare? Maybe
Mine overshare.
Is that what you're knitting? You're knitting me some pants?
You don't want to know some of the things I've knitted. They have been shown on Zoom things before.
Enough, Paul, I think you mentioned in the running commentary, when you do your little takes of Paula Radcliffe and Steve Cram, that you needed somebody to knit you some little finger puppets.
Oh, little Stevie.
Paula, angry Paula.
Paula, don't be so angry. They've only come in the last couple of weeks, but everyone likes it. And like most things in running in the podcast, they happen just by chance. But yeah, of course, sock buckets would be fantastic. That's obviously the direction we're going to end up in. Just
there you go.
We need to knit.
Paula and Steve.
Paula and Steve as finger puppets.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Paula Radcliffe, really angry Paula.
You know what? Somewhere I think I got. You know, when the 2012 Olympics was on, they did a knit. Fiona Goble did a knitting book. I've got a nativity knitting book, but I think she did an.
I remember that knitting book. Yeah.
I may have that somewhere on my shelf.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Don't be careful what you wish for. Is all I say where I'm concerned.
Excellent.
Win-win.
And Nettie, have you got a question?
Yeah, I was just because obviously I'm a big Yorkshire fan myself. Live in Essex, so I love Yorkshire. I was trying to work out what year you ran the Yorkshire Marathon.
All right, yeah, loud. Okay, nice. Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Or is it me? Maybe I'm breaking up.
So I was just saying, I wondered what year you ran the Yorkshire Marathon.
Ooh, let me have a look. I ran it in 2017.
That was the first.
2017.
I thought it might have been. That was the first year I ran it.
Yeah, that was my first Yorkshire. Yeah. So it was as far as I remember, it was quite a nice day, wasn't it? Was there a little bit of rain? I'm trying to remember now. It was a little bit of rain, but it was nice. I probably saw you there.
Yeah, probably. I would have been about an hour and a half behind you.
It's a nice course, though, isn't it? It is a nice course, and it's got a nice bit where it turns back on the other runners, and you're running into the other runners as well. That's always nice, isn't it? So you can see how tired out everyone looks. And yeah, it's really friendly. Yeah, it was 2017. It was, as I said, it was the autumn before the next spring, before the big attempt at sub 3. And I ran it in about 3 hours and 3 minutes. So it was great. It was a really nice.
And I think my question on that really is realistically, do you think you got away with peeing yourself the whole marathon? Or
well, maybe I didn't. Maybe I did until I started writing about it.
Would you try again?
Well, I thought I had. It's weird. It happened only in one marathon. It's really weird. And I thought I had until, and I chat about this in the book, until I started giving me a massage, and then I realised that I did smell a little bit. So I left the massage table rather quickly. But it was quite pleasurable. It was really weird. It was really odd. I found myself quite looking forward to the water stations. It was really weird. I felt hydrated, but I felt sort of bursting at the same time. It was an odd one. But I don't know if anyone else has had that. But yeah, I managed to mask it by fortuitous using of the sponge, which is a technique that I've patented, and runners around the world are doing as we speak.
And on that note, I think we've come to the end, sadly.
It's been really enjoyable. It's been really nice. It's nice. I was worried that people might not have read the book, but it feels like maybe people have read the book, so that's kind of.
I'd just like to say, if I come in on that, I have to admit, I haven't actually read your book.
I knew that.
And in fair honesty, and I think Kim's aware, maybe just a couple of, I've only actually ever read one book in my entire life, and I'm a quarter of the way through another one.
What was what you've read?
One book I've read is Lawrence Dallaglio's autobiography.
Whose autobiography? Whose?
Lawrence Dallaglio.
All right, yeah.
Low.
The main man.
And I'm a quarter of the way through James Haskell's What a Flanker, as in What a Wanker. But I will say, once I've finished it, I will be ordering your book and reading, because you've come across tonight fantastically, and I've listened in, and I relate to a hell of a lot of what you've said about your early life.
Okay, cool.
Which relates to me. So I'd really like to read that. And I'm going to read it, and I'll feed back to the group, and I'll feed back to yourself on what I think. Just one thing I'd like to ask as well is similar stature probably to myself, tall fella, like to drink, probably an ex-smoker as well. What made you decide to go and run a marathon? Obviously, I haven't read the book yet, so feel free to, if you break codes or whatever, go for it. But for me, I was reaching 50, and I wanted to run a marathon, and I was an ex-smoker, drinker, semi-pro rugby player as well, but I wanted to achieve that, and I did. Not in a great time, but I will get better. But what made you run a marathon?
I think it was, I always had it in my mind at some stage I was going to do it, because I ran a lot when I was a teenager. So I ran competitively, and so it was always sort of there. It was always something I was going to do. And then when I was about 35, I kind of came back into running, and it just felt like a natural thing to do. But at the same time, I think I started running in those events when other things in my life maybe weren't working out that well as well. And it was a way of sort of dealing with it, deflecting it, or journeying into it, or whatever. There's a certain sense of like, I've reached the end of one phase of my life, and I needed to start another, and the marathon was sort of part of that. And obviously, as you get older, it's a nice challenge, isn't it? It's a great challenge. And if you find yourself in all that, I never smoked like cigarettes, but I smoked other stuff. And it was nice to. It's just not. It's nice to change. It's nice to do something else, isn't it? Do you know? It's nice to, and it feels so good when you get healthy that you don't want to. You don't want to feel like you don't want to do stupid stuff again. It's like you establish your own momentum and pattern in life, and mentally as well. I'm really missing it at the moment because of this calf. I'm really missing not being able to run. I feel more grouchy. I feel like I'm putting on weight. I feel like my body is just not working like it should do, because you get used to the way it's working, don't you? You feel like a sort of you feel a bit animalistic when you're running loads. You feel really sharp and really like your body's working well. And when it's not, you just feel you feel a bit sluggish, don't you? And just I don't know about you, I just feel nothing. I'm not sleeping as well as I used to. Everything's just slowing down. You know.
Yeah, I do. I mean, most of the group know that obviously I've come and gone sort of thing through from running the London last year to doing a few little runs. But now, where there's obviously everything that's been going on, it's what I find now is great that I'm able to just get up. Do you know what? I fancy going for a run and just going out and running 10K or wherever I want to run. And I've got a lovely river down here in Kent that I run along, and we've all got great routes that we can find. But that's what I try and emphasise to everyone into the group as well, is just go out and run. You don't have to worry about times, and you've said about it. You don't have to worry about times. You don't have to worry about distances. Just, I think the key for me is, I think a couple of people through the lockdown, found it quite hard, sluggish, and that. And I've got no motivation. So I think I said to a couple of people, and they found it it was quite nice actually. And you may relate to this as well. Is how far is your Tesco's? And they'd say, well, about a mile and a half, a couple of K. Okay, run to Tesco's, buy a bottle of wine, and run back. You've done 4 or 5K, and then you can have a glass of wine, so you don't feel so bad.
Risk and reward is good. It's good. But you're in a good state if you can run 10K and just enjoy it. I think that's a really nice. Most of my running's done off watch. Most of my running is I'll run like between 5 and 8 miles, depending on how I feel. Completely off watch, just as I feel. If I want to go hard, I'll go hard. If I want to go, I always start off slow because I'm old. I can't be bothered to stretch, so I always start off slow. And then sometimes I'll see someone, I'll key off them and race them a little bit or not, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Things happen. But I think that's in lockdown. An awful lot of people came to running, and that was a really nice thing to see. And obviously, I realised how important it is just to be able to run, just above and beyond times, preparing for races, just that hour a day or whatever it is, might be half an hour, whatever, just away on your own is so valuable for my mental health. And obviously the rest of the country reached a similar conclusion because so many people are out running. That was a great thing. But and rather crazily, it coincided with a period where suddenly everyone got scared of runners as well. So there's a lot of that going on, which is a real shame, isn't it? It's a real shame. I don't see any evidence of transmission of corona from runners. I just don't. People just say you've just got to deal with it, haven't you? Occasionally it winds me up, but you've just got to accept it. The huffers and the puffers. Everyone's just trying to get through it.
Very quickly, I hope you don't mind, Paul. Jan's just got a quick question, if you don't mind.
All right.
Hello, hi. I'm still reading a book, actually, not quite finished yet, but I'm not going to miss it tonight, so that's why I'm here. So, I mean, I'm reading past a bit about you went to this clinic about not eating for 3 days, and that absolutely shocked me because that is the reason I run, so I can eat more. And I literally run to the supermarket. You said you're going to get a bottle of wine, but I run to the supermarket to get a pie. So that keeps me running. So I was just wondering, do you think that works, like not eating for a few days, then you can run more freely on the 4th day?
Well, it did for a little bit. I mean, it's very extreme, isn't it? It's, one good thing about running is that you can run and it gives you good appetite, and then you can eat whatever you want, really. But I have found, within reason, and you can take this as far as you want to go for it. And some people take it way too far. That the less you weigh, you just feel like you're running a bit better. You're just carrying less. You're just carrying less around, you know. So I feel I never want to be really, really thin at all. Some people take it way out. But I've noticed if I'm a little half a stone lighter than I normally am, then I'm probably about right for running. And so that worked for a little bit for me. But I love my food so much. I mean, literally, I've spent today eating roast potatoes from the fridge from Sunday that are left over from Sunday leftovers. I adore it. Bread. I love all this stuff. But I know that if I don't eat it just for a little bit, just before a race or whatever, I just feel a little bit crisper. So it's up to you. 3 days without food is fairly ridiculous. And by the end, I was desperate. I was desperate to eat. But your body does work out ways of using fuel. And we do tend to eat a little bit too much. So yeah, I think that's for everyone to judge. I felt quite liberated after a few days without eating, and I felt a difference, and I felt I kind of tapped into a reservoir of energy that I didn't know I possessed. But I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. I can't be around the house and not eating. It's all I can do not to have a big bar of chocolate every night. Do you know what I mean? I need to be in an environment geared around denying me food for me not to eat food. Yeah. Yeah,
I just find that I thought you actually managed to sit at the table and asking for the crackers politely. If that was me, I would be chasing him down the kitchen with a knife.
Well, it was quite a tense. It was a tense moment. Let me assure you. I was desperate for crackers at that moment, which I was denied, and I couldn't believe it. But then the next day, I was given food, and old McIntyre, bless him, he wasn't. So that changed the relationship a fair bit. And it's quite expensive. I couldn't have done it again. I couldn't have done it if he hadn't paid for me. So that was good. But yeah, don't worry too much. I won't worry too much about the food. Running's more important than food, and But if you can combine both, as you obviously found a way to do so.
I mean, it's great. I run more than I eat more, so running make me happy, and eating more make me happy. So,
you found the perfect combo. Go for it. That's one of the reasons why I'm attracted to ultras, because you can run and eat simultaneously for long periods of time. So that's something I'm keen to explore.
I like the sound of that. That sounds good to me. Yeah. Right, we better let you go and have some crackers with some cheese on, perhaps. A glass of bread.
Thank you.
Let's see where Paul. I've ordered it.
Paul. It's very good.
Fantastic. I might be able to afford some orthotics after that.
There you go. Yeah, but it was on discount on Amazon, so sorry, you didn't get the full price.
Oh, brilliant.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
On behalf of all of us, thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
Absolute pleasure. Really nice people, and good luck with your running. And Fletch, get in touch when you read it. Tell me what you think. Yeah,
I will do, mate. I've just followed you on Twitter, so I'll give you a message. All right, definitely.
That'd be great. And good luck with all your running. All right. Thanks a lot.
Just click.
Cheers, Paul.
Cheers, mate. Well done.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
This is the awkward.
Right, who's going first? Bye, everyone.
Fletcher, are you going to say something?
I was just going to quickly ask. Can I ask a personal one? What's your weight? Because I'm 6'4", 6'3", and I'm about 18 stone. And I know I'm a bit heavy, but I don't want to look too anorexic.
No, it's all good. I'm just over 6 foot, and I'm about 13 stone at the moment.
Right. Okay.
And when I ran London, when I ran sub 3, I was just over 12.
Right, okay.
Normally I'm about 12 and a half. And over lockdown, I put on about half a stone, and I could easily put on a bit more. You know, I'm not really.
Yeah. I just feel that if I go too light, I'll look anorexic. And
and you don't want to do that. There's no point at the level we're running at looking really ill. No. Everyone getting worried about you. Do you know what I mean? You want a healthy weight.
Yeah.
And so it's all within reason. But you know, just eat your greens and don't eat much bread for a few weeks. You just feel it.
Yeah. No. To be fair, I went on keto. I did keto before London.
Okay, and did you notice a difference with that?
Yeah, I went down to just around 7. I did London in about 17 and a half stone.
Right. Okay.
But I hit that wall, and I had a real bad hip injury because I had the wrong trainers as such. So now I've got the right trainers. I know I can push on, and I know I can do better. So
keto's good, but I just really like potatoes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Obviously, you can't have them. So
just resisting potatoes.
You can eat lots of cheese, though.
Yeah, of course. Well, listen, give us a shout. And,
yeah,
give us a shout. All right,
thank you ever so much for joining us, Kim. Well done tonight. It's fantastic. Thank you.
It's really enjoyable.
Thank you.